A new name sits atop the World Blitz rankings, and it's a man who just might surprise you in how he got there. Sticking with Blitz and surprises, even though the normal cast of heavy hitters showed up for July's Title Tuesday, we had two relatively unknown names earn Chess.com's full-paid trip to the Isle of Man International. Of course, it's time to take a look back to June and see the best and worst moments that were. With so many plot twists, ChessCenter doesn't need dragons to keep you on the edge of your seat. Eat your heart out, Game of Thrones. And joining us now, hopefully, as soon as he turns his attention away from football, is the one and only Peter Dockers. Peter, what are the major stories hitting the chess press this week?
Hey, Danny. Yeah, well, I was watching Portugal-Wales, of course, first semi-final in the Euro 2016, but chess news should get preference here. Well, let's start with the Edmonton International, a 10-player round robin held every year and pretty strong every year. For example, Alex Teixeirov, a big Latvian legend, I should say, was playing, but he didn't win the tournament. And Surya Ganguly, who started with 7 out of 7, didn't win it either. The Indian Grandmaster was the first to do a Caruana after Caruana himself, but in the 8th round he lost his game to Sam Shankland, and Sam was the one who won the tournament. He tied with Ganguly in the end, but he won the tournament on tiebreak.
Yeah, interesting to see someone pull a Caruana but not quite win the tournament. Congrats to the American Sam Shankland. Now, there were some big successes for two Ukrainian grandmasters. Tell everybody who they were and what tournaments they won over this last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first there was the Porticcio Open, a beautiful resort place in Corsica, France. And Alexander Areschenko, you might remember him from knocking out Levon Aronian at the Baku World Cup. Areschenko won this tournament, and he also did last year, actually. So he feels at home there, and he might be there back again next year. And, well, his compatriot Andrei Volokitin, he won the Milan Vidmar Memorial in Bled, Slovenia. Milan Vidmar was an absolute top-class grandmaster in the 1910s and 20s, and it is already the 20th time that his name, this player is remembered, and Volokitin was the strongest, playing some very good endgames.
Two big successes for those Ukrainians, and we also had two big successes in this month's Title Tuesday tournament held on the first Tuesday of every month. July's event was sending a couple of players to the Isle of Man, now the Chess.com Isle of Man tournament this October. Tell everybody who those players were and how our Title Tuesdays broke down.
Yeah, indeed. It was the second Title Tuesday, the late event, where the best male and best female player in the tournament would be qualifying for a trip to Isle of Man. And it was Altai Sarfarli. He won the tournament with 7.5 out of 9 who qualified. And it was also an Indian player, and her name is Kotepalli Sai Nirupama. I had to read it up there. It's a very difficult name. She also qualified. And, well, Safarli, in fact, also won the early edition last Tuesday, where he tied for first with Hikaru Nakamura. So a very good evening for him. And, yeah, well, these two players, they will make a very nice trip to the Isle of Man.
Congrats to both. They'll be joining you as you provide the full broadcast setup there, and we can't wait for that tournament. Can't wait for all the news you're going to bring us every week, Peter, and go ahead and get back to your football, but not before you feed your cat.
I will do both, but maybe I'll start from football first. See ya.
Well, Robert, the American Super Swiss tournament, known as the World Open, always takes place right around July 4th weekend. And this year, fireworks were created on the board when Gelashvili faced off against Varakobian. In this case, Gelashvili reached way back, probably taking a lesson out of one of those chess books you keep in that old dirty bookshelf that we're happy you got rid of with a new clean wall behind you, buddy. And here he showed everybody why we study those classic combinations and why we try to memorize how the great masters of the past played. Tell everybody what Gelashvili did here to absolutely destroy the Armenians' kingside.
Well, here Gelashvili pulled a good old Georgian gift sacrifice, reminiscent of Lasker Bauer 1889. Bishop takes h7 check, king takes h7, queen h5 check, king to g8, and now another bishop sacrifice. Bishop takes g7. The king has to capture, and after queen g4 check, the king is forced to the h-file. The rook lift, rook f3 threatens mate in 1, so the black is forced to part with the lady. Queen f6, and after rook h3 check, queen h6, well, it's a very easy win for white.
Yeah, Gelashvili took care of things in fine fashion, bringing in some reinforcements before simplifying out the position, and then the nice finishing touch, G6. Whenever you have a queen versus a bunch of pieces, always good to create targets against the enemy king. That is where the queen flexes her muscles the best way. She picks up the knight with check, and Gelashvili went on to win this game very, very cleanly. So a brilliant double bishop sacrifice, not something you get to say very often these days, but we tip our hat, and we saw many strong grandmasters playing well at the World Open, but none as well as Gelashvili did in this game here. Well, Sean, here's what everyone's talking about this week as Anish Giri was at it again on social media, this time giving all of us chess fans a photo to look at of what is apparently his preparation session before the Bilbao Chess Masters final, getting set to start on July 13th. But this seems a little staged, right? Some interesting and odd things here in this photograph. I'm going to let you bat first and point out the things that jumped out to you.
You got it. If I could call the watcher's attention to the water bottle on the table there, I think you'll see it is Magnus Carlsen's style of water bottle, calling to mind for all of us the fact that Magnus Carlsen has yet to defeat Anish Giri. Another thing I'd point out is the King's Gambit, an opening with which, if Giri actually uses it, he may well face his first defeat against Carlsen. Also, I'd like to point out an interesting preview to a sport that will come in the near future, which is somehow a hybrid between fencing and soccer.
Yeah, the poster is definitely weird and caught my eye. The phone also, right? I didn't know they still made phones with cords. And as I look at that box open on the desk, I feel like I'm staring into what is kind of a nerd's paradise. Are those Dungeons and Dragons figurines? Are Magic the Gathering cards about to be busted out? Who knows what Anish really has planned in this photo, but either way, we wish him and Carlsen and all those getting set to play in Bilbao the best of luck. Everyone can follow daily recap shows, of course, at chess.com/TV. We wish you the best and safest journey home, Sean, from the World Open, where you gained 61 rating points, my friend.
That's right. It was a beautiful tournament, well run. I really enjoyed it.
Classic Sean. Another segment with FIDE master Mike Klein, another awkward-looking hotel room, as he is at the Canadian Youth Championships in Windsor, Canada. Mike, time to talk adult chess. I hope you still remember how to do that, and let us know what the other news storylines are hitting the press this week.
Well, Danny, thank you. One of them was the fact that the new World Blitz ratings are out, and surprise, surprise, the name of the top is not the one you'd expect. Ding Liren, the new world number one. Sometimes the best things come to those who wait, or in this case, sit out. Thanks to the strength of the Rapid and Blitz events in Paris and in Leuven, all Ding Liren had to do was not play, and Carlsen and Nakamura dipped below him. Now, Ding Liren is not going to get off so easy in August. He must play at least one of them, Nakamura, at the Singfield Cup as the wild card. There won't be any Blitz there, but he is going to be tested to see if he's truly deserving of this rating. I think he might want to get an invite to our next Blitz battles in 2017, Danny.
That may just be on his horizon. Sticking with FIDE, I understand there are some other rumors of impeachment possibly coming out. I'm going to let you talk about the details concerning FIDE President Kirsan Ilyumzhinov.
That's right, Danny. Normally we wouldn't spend any time on a rumor, but this one came from the very respected Chess News RU journalist Evgeny Sarov. He's kind of like the Russian Peter Doggers. He really knows his stuff. He's very well respected in the chess journalism community. And he printed an article saying that at the next Olympiad, if there's 50% of the federations plus one, that is a simple majority, that vote for impeachment, then Kirsan could be out of there. He also said that if 2/3 of the federations vote in favor, we could actually elect a new FIDE president altogether, even though the 4-year cycle is not set to renew until 2018.
Probably too late to see someone like Kasparov get back involved, but certainly that will keep people on their toes and anticipating the next election cycle. Back to some more positive news. Obviously, we just had Carlsen take down Petrosian in fine fashion, and you have some updates on when the final 4 players of the Grandmaster Blitz Battle Championship will face off.
That's right, Danny. We have a very small window between the Singfield Cup and the Olympiad, and that window has now been filled. Mark your calendars. If you want to see the world champion play 3 hours more of Blitz, you can do so right here, chess.com/TV. On August the 18th is Carlsen Grishuk, and about a week later, we've got Nakamura playing his match against MVL. That's actually a death match repeat. That's going to be on August 24th. We have a tentative date, Danny, for the finals, although we don't know the players yet. 2 of those 4 will likely be contesting the finals on September the 22nd. Make sure you mark all of those dates right now, because that's going to be the 3 biggest events ever on chess.com.
Love checking in with you regarding our schedule so that I know when I need to be on air too. Mike, thanks for all you're bringing to us, both with the kids there in Canada and with these news segments, and I'll see you soon in Time Trouble.
I'll send you some maple syrup.
Well, Robert, you know we've all been there. Your opponent is pushing a slight edge past the point that you're really comfortable with. You're trying to avoid getting irritated with your opponent at this point, but you're pretty sure this obstacle to bishop ending should be a draw. But no, you make a blunder after losing your focus, although there can be a bright side to all of these normally unhappy endings, right? They get to be on ChessCenter. Robert, tell everybody how Victor Lesnica landed himself in Blunder of the Week against our own Daniel Naroditsky by playing a horrific move as black in this position.
Well, Danny, as you said, it is starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. The black king is stuck over there on h7. The bishop on b2 is hitting g7. But the inadvisable move, queen to b6. The idea is clear. Queen g1 check, hoping to get enough checks going where you hold the game. But after queen e4 check, well, white just scoops up that bishop on c4. The king moves, queen takes bishop, and now black is completely lost.
Yeah, he gives a few checks for good measure, but even e2 is guarded, and it only takes a few more moves before black admittedly throws in the towel, saying, yeah, I didn't really mean to blunder away that bishop. White's mating attack ensues. In case you're wondering, king h7 would have been followed by checkmate on g6. But hey, Victor, keep your head up right. If it wasn't for blunders like you, or blunders like that, we wouldn't get to feature players like you on ChessCenter. I say best, then you say worst. Best.
Oh, worst.
Best.
Worst?
All right, we got to work on Sean's crowd control, everybody, but at least it's your favorite time, your favorite portion of ChessCenter. We get to take a look back at the month of June that was in the world of chess, and I'm going to let Mr. McCoy start things off with the 5th best moment.
Well, number 5, we're going to give to Ivanchuk, who wins the Capablanca Memorial for the 7th time, showing that he is still an angry doll with a sharp knife.
It's showing that I still love that reference. Number 4, we're going to give to Shakir Mamedyarov for defending home turf in Azerbaijan, winning the Gashimov Memorial and beating super strong players like Fabiano Caruana on the way to doing it.
Number 3, we're going to give to Nakamura for dominating the Parisian leg of the Grand Chess Tour, winning with a few rounds to spare and showing that he is the Duke of Wellington to everyone else's Napoleon.
That reference went right over my head, but I'll tell you what didn't go over my head. Amanatov's big payday from the Eurasian Blitz. He dominated a tournament with a lot of players supposedly much stronger than him, winning more money in a single tournament than most people from his home country make in an entire year, and reminding all of us that there was chess being played outside of the Grand Chess Tour that week.
Speaking of outside the Grand Chess Tour, we have Magnus Carlsen, who is technically outside of it, but was able to play in it as a wild card. He dominates in Leuven shortly before going to win the Grandmaster Blitz battles against Tigran Petrosian.
Yeah, and for that, he actually took our Title Player of the Month, an award that many people don't know that we give, but certainly worthy of giving him the #1 best spot for the month of June. With heads, there is always a tails. In this case, there is another side to the coin, and it is the worst side of things. Sean, are you ready to review the bad things that happened?
No, I'm really not ready for this list.
Well, we are going to go through them anyway. I'm going to start things off with number 5, saying that former world champion Vladimir Kramnik's performance the last day in Paris, where he scored 1 out of 9, was one of the worst we've ever seen from Big Vlad and got many people talking about whether or not this was the beginning of the end for the former champ.
Number 4, we're going to give to Tigran Petrosian, not the former world champion, but the younger, for losing the Grandmaster Blitz battle at 21-4. That is the worst score that we've had either in Grandmaster Blitz battles or in death matches.
Yeah, it got ugly there toward the end. And speaking of bad, unfortunately, we have to review the passings that happened in the chess world. Not that any one is ever worse than the other, but at number 3, we're going to give Arturo Pomar, the legendary grandmaster who passed just toward the end of May, early June. Very sad to see him go.
We also need to mourn the passing of Frank Berry, Bill Hall, and Danny Kopech, all of the major contributors to U.S. chess.
Yep, and at number 1, of course, as we said, no death is ever worse or better than the other, but the legendary Viktor Korchnoi is also no longer with us. Too bad we won't have his pawn-grabbing style. As I always said, if Viktor played a gambit, you knew it was good, because he didn't like giving up material very much, and we didn't like saying goodbye to him, but unfortunately we had to do so in the month of June, so he takes our top worst moment for things to happen to the chess world. Well, Robert, the next Super Grandmaster tournament that everybody needs to have on their calendar is the Dortmund Carlsen chess meeting. Try to say that 5 times fast. But despite the long name, it is a short list of who's who for top chess players. Tell us who you have taking home the title this year.
Well, Danny, I have Maxime Vachier-Lagrave taking his first major title. Yes, he's won Biel 4 times, but Dortmund is a whole nother animal. There's Vladimir Kramnik, who's won the event 10 times. There's Fabiano Caruana, who's won the last 2 editions, but I've got the Frenchman with 3 names, 2798, having breaking 2800, cementing a spot in the world top 5, and showing a very strong performance at this edition of Dortmund.
Well, you make a compelling argument, and not to take anything away from MVL's career, everyone knows we love him at Chess.com, but yeah, he hasn't ever really taken home a title with, I guess, a closed event like this, right? I'm going to stick with the world champ, or the former world champ, I should say. Vladimir Kramnik, there's a reason he's won this event as many times as I have fingers, and yes, I do have 10, despite the rumors you have heard. I think he takes home his 11th title. And if I had to pick a dark horse, I'm going to surprise you with Ruslan Ponomarev, not even Fabiano Caruana. Ponomarev has won this event before. I think the Ukrainian GM is going to be a little more fresh than all of those guys coming off of the Grand Chess Tour, right? These guys are playing so many events, Kramnik, Caruana, MVL. If those guys are a little tired, don't be surprised to see the Ukrainians slip in the back door and maybe come away with another Dortmund victory. Either way, everyone needs to tune in to chess.com/TV because you may not have time to watch all 6 hours of the live coverage. We have you covered with our well-known highlight shows, Grandmaster Alex Yermolinsky and company. We'll be summarizing for you everything that's happening in these big events in our 60 to 90-minute highlight shows, lowlights, highlights, all the best games. Make sure you check it out. Robert, I know you'll be checking out the games, and we'll see if we get some new moves and blunders in next week's Chess Center. It's time trouble, and it's time for us to get into some trouble, Mike. Our first question might be getting me into trouble with Hikaru Nakamura, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think FIDE's new responsibility and power given to arbiters to call illegal moves might be because of the Nippo Nakamura scandal regarding castling?
You know, could be. Judging by the new rules, Nakamura would have lost that game at the World Cup, although, much like the U.S., FIDE has no ex post facto rulings that I know of. Now, in a recent odds match, Komodo beat Grandmaster Sergei Ehrenberg with a multitude of different time odds. One of them was a 30-1 time deficit. Do you think there's any odds left that humans can try against computers?
Not a chance. Time to move on to Parcheesi. Moving on to more challenges is Komodo, and he actually beat a recent, or let's say old, rival of his, Johnny, despite being handicapped 48 processors to a whopping 2,400 processors. Mike, give me a sports equivalent to that kind of mismatch.
Well, 50-1 seems like nothing when preseason Leicester City was 5,000-1 to win the premiership. Although, you know, Danny, I think this is more like Fabiano Caruana beating John Urschel in arm wrestling. There's been a decline in chess in the Philippines, according to a recent article. Do you think we can blame this all on Wesley So's transfer?
It's hard to put the whole thing on the young kid's head, but also hard to say it didn't have something to do with it. He was their hero. But I'm going to take a slightly happier angle to the same topic and say that without Wesley So, and maybe the slight decline of the top players, our own GM Joey, that's GM Rogelio Antonio Jr., has actually qualified to play for the Filipino Olympic team. He hasn't played chess over the board in 10 years, Mike. You think he's going to be up to the task?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he travels to Baku, and if he does, it's my mission to get him to be the first player to play at an Olympiad in a Chess.com t-shirt. Lastly, then, we have to end by mentioning our own Blunder. The 7th Hainan Danzu Classic is taking place right now with a slew of top 30 players. It didn't even get a mention on ChessCenter. How could you let this happen?
No, you're right. Ding Liren, Hari Krishna, Napam Niachichi, Leica. It was a huge blunder, but Mike, aren't you the director of content?
Well, I am, but news travel is still in Canada.
Okay, well, we're going to let you go on that note with that very reasonable excuse, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, Canada.
Well, I haven't seen a move this week. Here, this might be less a move of the week, Robert, as much as it is a... What am I talking about? Hold on a second. Seriously, I'm not even... I'm totally messing up.
That was won by Sam Shankland of the USA, but not before before my cat jumps. If this is not a blooper, I don't know.
Your cat has got to leave us alone. Peter. Peter, it's time.
Here. Oh, Danny, yeah, well, I was just watching Portugal-Wales, of course, the first semi-final in Euro 2016. Sorry, why am I saying this?
It's funny, though. I like it. We are going to have highlight shows and, of course, daily recaps. Actually, we're not going to have that, so we're going to have to redo this whole segment.
Yeah, absolutely. The Frenchman with 3 names is world highest ranking, number 4 in the
And then before you know it, you're distracted by somebody who walked in the door, made a loud noise. You start thinking about everybody else already having a good time over at the bar/restaurant. And you get a little impatient, right? You play a move that maybe you don't even think had anything to do with the position. Certainly it can't be bad. Bob's your uncle. Where am I going with this? I just completely lost myself in that tyrant. Yeah, he also dominated Tigran Petrosian and took our Player of the Month award on Chess.com as far as the title players of the month. And we got to redo this segment because Sean messed up the last part.
That's...